Welcome, beloved Sangha, to our Jewel Ornament of Liberation series with our Venerable Khenpo Tenzin. We'll begin today's episode in the Yellow Garchen Buddhist Institute prayer book on page 4 and 5 with opening prayers. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Dongge doje jere zonro jinjama do doje ponjamba surja lombo tabra jibak shaje jarbe jadongo janzar dorje jenjen de lonaro da mabamala juje gambo amorban jawandu gumba gajula manam je da jonje ananda zara tamje da lamala bala ye jizozo lozayon de jamsengala Dinde dunjin drebe gela zor, da gelo chuzun rovar sinja labdo zor, chu alam dan rovar sinja labdos, lam drova zivra sinja labdo zor, drova yishi sunja var sinja labdo zor, gange dinjin drevar jong, aba me bache pa me bata me, Oma me bandro me bata de do me dunje me, drova nye she den ba, zobo sanje mananje, tamba de lo zang zar do. Zava lama chi Kuzung do je zilan da 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 ge jilan ba da da ge den ba da sun je je dong la po jen zhe pra sun je la de so. Many days later, Dharma friends, today we will discuss on the ornament, precious liberation. So last we stopped, if you have this book, we stopped page number 53. I think it is 53. Actually, we all Dharma practitioners. Some are long-time Dharma practitioners. Some are new Dharma practitioners. So we are like in like a newly planted tree. So first we should grow. Second, we need to have plenty of leaves. And third, we need to bear fruit and flowers. If a tree has all these, then this tree becomes helpful for others and becomes valuable. Likewise, we should become beneficial for others and liberate ourselves from suffering. In order to achieve these, we must undertake a path. I think the red path includes all of Gampopa's 12 essential things. So first we discuss some of these briefly. It is essential for the practitioner to have faith arising from deep fear of birth and death, as well as to consistently practice Dharma with the knowledge that birth and death are true to life. Since we have birth, we have death. So we have to trust the relationship between birth and death. What is the benefit of trusting? We almost forget about death. So we cultivate many activities through attachment and aversion. Through these activities, whether we say we do not need suffering and we have a big hope that suffering does not occur, but still it occurs. But if we trust that since we have a birth, then we have a death, then we start to focus on death. Then spontaneously we will practice the Dharma. For example, when we are hungry, we remember food, and when we are thirsty, we remember water. Likewise, we remember the Dharma when we think of death, because only the Dharma helps us when we will die. Then second, it says a guru who shows us the path of liberation is essential. Guru knows and experiences the path of liberation is like, for instance, a guide who can take you to holy places. So what is the path of liberation? The path of liberation is knowing one's essence of mind. So if the guru did not introduce you to your mind's Buddha nature, then you could not know it. Now if I ask you, do you recognize your mind's Buddha nature? Some say yes. Then I ask how. You answer that my guru introduced it to me. Some say no. Why? You already have mind, but why you could not know it? So that is what we mean by the guru is essential. Then third, the wisdom for understanding the meaning of Dharma is essential. As it says in the 37 ways of Bodhisattva, without wisdom, the other 5 perfections alone are not enough to reach complete enlightenment. So all Dharma includes two bodhicittas, the loving kindness of the relative form and the ultimate form. First, other beings like happiness, having only this understanding is also wisdom. Through this understanding, we can benefit others through one mouthful of water or food. However, the aspiration to benefit others is a relative bodhicitta. Through wisdom, we know the essence of all phenomena. This is the ultimate bodhicitta. Then for the diligence, like armor and courage are essential. When we practice Dharma, we should make effort because we can become enlightened instantaneously, but we can become ordinary being instantaneously. For instance, when we recognize or when we resting on the Buddha nature, in Buddha nature, at that time we became Buddha. But after that, then arises different thoughts from our mind. Then we become ordinary being. So we should make effort to practice Dharma, but then how to apply diligence is related wisdom. So right now you are listening Dharma. This is also diligence. If you are meditating right now, this is also diligence. You are reciting something like this book, Ornament, Liberation, or this book. This is also diligence. So diligence is not different than there is no separately. Diligence is not somewhere in separately, but whatever you do with the Dharma practice, then that is diligence. So diligence is generally we say diligence means making effort, but this is a virtues. This is a virtue. So that's where it has a benefit. So you listen Dharma, it has a benefit. You listen Dharma, then how you can get benefit from it? You start to understand something like a Buddha nature or compassion or loving kindness or some visualizations or how to meditate and so forth. So even you understand a single Dharma word, then your wisdom start to wake up. So then your wisdom, your activities through your Dharma wisdom, then your ignorance will reduce. There are two kinds of ignorance. One is since beginningless time, we have that ignorance. It is like a fundamental of ignorance. It is a fundamental ignorance. Then through this ignorance, then we act through our body, or we say something, or we think something. At the same time, we don't know what is right and what is wrong, and we don't know the karmic relations. So these are also ignorance. So this ignorance is a temporary ignorance. So temporary ignorance supports to the foundation of ignorance. Foundation of ignorance also supports to the temporary ignorance. So how we are cycling, how we are existing in cycle, how we are existing in this samsara. Then if I just say you should apply diligence, is I think it's not so much helpful. But if you understand karma cause and effect, and if you understand the value of Dharma practice, then automatically you will apply diligence. Who practice Dharma through diligence, then sooner or later one become Buddha or Bodhisattvas or great Dharma practitioners. Dharma practitioner. So sometimes we listen Dharma very often and practice Dharma often, and then of course sometimes we it's possible get tired, and we have less enthusiasm to practice Dharma. Sometimes it is possible, but you try to make effort, especially at that time. I don't mean, for example, you listen Dharma, and sometimes you have no more interesting to listen Dharma, and then you can practice, like meditate. You can meditate. If you have less interest in meditate, you can recite mantras, so forth. If you have less interest in to recite and read prayer books and so forth, then you circumambulate in stupa or temple and so forth. If you have no more interest in to do them, then you generate compassion, the loving kindness. So, however, if you have sometimes if you are tired to meditate for sometimes if you are tired to meditate, then you don't want to make effort to meditate. So you can recite some prayers and so forth. So this is how you keep diligence. And then I will read our text, the book, the page number 53. I think here. The second example is that of a torrent cascading over the edge of a steep cliff. Its waters tumble down without pausing, even for an instant. Likewise, it is extremely clear that human life is unable to pause. Yeah, so you reflect is true or not. Actually, Dharma is always true. Because Dharma tells two kinds of natures: ultimate nature and nature of relative truth. So this part is a relative truth. So one day has how many hours? 12? 24 hours. I'm very good mathematician. I don't know even how many hours a day. So that makes a good teacher. So one day has 24 hours, and since this morning to now, maybe many hours gone, but we always focus outside. Many hours gone. Then we focus outside, but we do not focus inside. So we should focus inside. And we focus inside means our life is gone with minutes, going with minutes, hours, days, and weeks. Is it true? It is true because no one's life span is become longer and longer. But the only we can keep healthy, keep health, and recite prayers. It helps to remove obstacles, some obstacles. Otherwise, life we cannot make longer. Lifespan we cannot make longer. We cannot make longer our lifespans. Uh, uh, Perhaps we think, okay, we don't worry. Our life is going with hours and days. It is nature. Perhaps we think that, but then at the same time we have we are suffering. Yeah. So when we are suffering, we cannot say, "Oh, it's okay. We are suffering. It's okay." If you can say that, then that means you are a great practitioner. Probably you understand perhaps you have a great bodhicitta. Perhaps you understand the essence of suffering or essence of phenomena. Essence of phenomena. So then do not worry about that. So we try to escape from death, actually. The medicines and other things that temporarily help us to escape from death, but they cannot help us to escape from death inherently. So through Dharma practice, we can how in the relative truth we know, okay, if there is birth, then there is death. Another name is impermanence. And then we training with this, practice with that, and in the ultimate level, we recognize there is no birth and there is no death. When we recognize there is no birth and there is no death, that means we liberate from suffering. That means we recognize, that means how we make our life is, how to say, longer or unlimited. But to recognize that, it's, I don't have a good example, but to recognize birthless and deathless, we should trust birth and death. It looks like a little bit opposite, yeah? But this is how we should try to understand the ultimate truth. Because these something are similar things, but they are not same. For example, ignorance. If I am very deep sleep, if I am sleeping very deeply, at that time I don't have gross thoughts. It is quite similar Dharma Mahamudra realization. But it is not same. They are not same. What is different? The differences are I sleep deeply. At that time, my mind is completely ignorance. So, in the middle of the night, without sunlight and moonlight and other lights, we have eyes, and we looking somewhere in the middle of the night. We cannot see. But there is dangerous. We will walk edge of the mountains, cliff, or so forth, and we will fall down. Perhaps we will step on some thrones and so forth. or piece of glass and so forth. And then they hurt our feet. And then we will pain. This is how the ignorance works with us. But the realization of Dharmakaya, when we realize the Dharmakaya, the Mahamudra, these ordinary things, temporary things, they cannot harm us. They cannot harm us. They cannot harm our body. They cannot harm our speech. They cannot harm our mind. For example, someone says harsh word, it's no problem. It cannot hurt our mind. But we can hear this harsh word. When we hear this harsh word, at the same time, we can transform them into like an empty space. So then it's quite similar, the ignorance and Mahamudra. And we don't know anything or Mahamudra. They are quite similar, but there is difference. This is found in the Crown Jewel Dharani Sutara, where it says, "Friends, this life path is swiftly as water gushing over a waterfall. Immature beings, unaware of this and living unskillfully, proudly intoxicate themselves with sin's pleasures." Furthermore, the collection of aphorisms says, it follows on like the current of a mighty river, never turning back. The third example, it is that of a practitioner being led to the place of execution, whose every step brings death closer. We are just like that in the Noble Tree Sutara. It says, just like a prisoner beings lead to the place of execution, whose every step brings him closer to death. The collection of aphorisms also says, just as those on their way to execution draw closer to their death, with every step that is taken, so it is with the life force of humans. There are three reasons why the time of death is not definite. The lifespan is uncertain. The body has no single vital essence. There are many possible causes of death. The time of death is not definite because lifespan is uncertain. Although the lifespan is fixed for some other sentient beings and for human beings in other parts of the cosmos, the lifespan of ordinary people in this world is not definite. In the treasure of a higher knowledge, it says, here it is not definite, 10 years at the end, and inestimable at the beginning. Just now it is indefinite, is explained in the collection of aphorisms. Some will die in the womb, some when they are born, some when they can only crawl, some when they can run, some when aged, some when young, and some in the prime of life. Eventually, they all go. The time of death is indefinite because the body has no single vital essence. This body has no solid, enduring essence. Only its 36 impure substances. Thus guide to the Bodhisattva way of lives. Using the scalpel of discerning awareness. First, dissect yourself mentally, peeling away the layer of skin and going through the flesh to the skeleton. Having even dissected the bones and going to the marrow, examining carefully ask, what is there that could be its vital essence? This is what we ourselves ought to investigate. The time of death is not definite because there are many potential causes of death. There is nothing that could not become a cause of death, either for me or for someone else. It says in the letter to a friend. There are many things that damage life, as life is more unstable than an air bubble in water. It is a wonder that in breaths give way to outer breaths, or that anyone awakens from sleep. Okay? So you close your eyes and then turn on this recording, and then you listen, and step by step you visualize. It is very helpful. You don't want to read many books through your eyes, then you can protect your eyes. But ears, you listen more, it's good. So you listen. Sometimes I read this and with mispronunciations, and you can laugh, yeah? You can laugh because my English is not so good. So then you can do laughing meditation. And then So this is helpful. If you don't have time to do retreat, particularly for meditate on them, but you listen often, just turn on YouTube and then listen. This is a meditation, listening, practicing together. Yeah. There are 3 contemplation on how once died. Nothing can accomplish. Nothing can accompany you. 7. Wealth and objects cannot accompany you. 8. Friends and relatives cannot accompany you, and 9. Your own body cannot accompany you. Wow. 7. Wealth and objects cannot accompany you after death. Guide to the Bodhisattva way of life says, although you may have obtained so many things and have used and enjoyed them for a long time, you depart naked and empty-handed, as though robbed by thieves. Empty-handed, you should go empty-handed or not, it is depending. It is in your hand. It is not related to Buddha and Bodhisattvas. So empty-handed, this is a metaphor. So now if you practice Dharma, then, yeah, of course, we cannot take this body when we will die. Of course, we have to leave all our jewels and expensive things. Even we cannot carry this hairs and head and sunglasses. Now our eyes cannot see without a glass, but when we will die, we will be able to see many things. So at that time we do not need sunglasses. But what we will see, what we hear, they are scary things. But in the reality, they are not scary things, but our mind scared them. Because we have fear. And then at that time, that fear more activities within our mind or in our mind. So here it says something happened. So this will happen or not, it is in our hand right now. Not only do wealth and possessions not accompany you at death, they also harm both this life and the next life. They harm this life in account of the suffering caused through for quarrels over them, having to protect them from theft, and enslavement to them. The ripening of karma planted in this way harms future lives, taking one to the lower states. 8. Friends and relatives cannot accompany you at death. As it says, when the time comes to die, children will not be a refuge. Not father and mother, not friends and loved ones. None could be your refuge. Best refuge is doctors, but doctors also could not, if that is your karma. Generally, of course, doctors can protect us in many ways, but eventually it were ready to separate our body and mind, then they cannot protect us. But it's okay if we have precious things with our mind. What are them? Loving kindness, bodhicitta, and view, right view, perfect view. Then is okay. But of course, children, father, mother, and friends, loved one, they all try to protect you because they don't want to separate. But then they cannot. So then if you close your eyes gently and think, every day talks Dharma, teach Dharma, I practice for a long time. What is real? What I really what I need? Why am I doing this? Then you understand, I'm doing. However, you try to become protector of yourself. Yeah. Not only do relatives and friends not accompany you at death, they also harm both this life. Did I read it? Okay. They both this life and the next. They harm this life through the anguish of worrying about their well-being and their lives. The full karmic reckoning of these fears spoils your future lives by taking you to the lower realms. 9. Your own body cannot accompany you at death. Nor can its physical qualities do so. No strong or courageous person can turn death away. No sweat athlete can altering it, and no eloquent speaker or negotiator can dissuade it. Am I right? That would be like trying to prevent or delay the sun from setting behind a mountain. No one can. The physical substance of the body cannot accompany you, either guide to the Bodhisattva way of life. Says, your body which you have clothed and feed at the expense of a great hardship will be unable to help you. It will be eaten by jackals or birds, be burnt by a fire, rot in water, or be burned in a grave. Not only can your body not accompany you, it's just explained, it also harms both this life and the next. It injures this life through the great sufferings that occur when it cannot bear sickness, heat, cold, hunger, or thirst, or when there is a fear of being killed, bound, or beating, 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 beating. Actions related to these misfortunes will drag you into the lower states in future lives. The second way of contemplating your own impermanence is by observing what happens to others and applying it to yourself. This means that when actually witnessing others die, hearing of their death, or recollecting people dying, you imagine this happening to you and then meditate accordingly. Yeah. Some great practitioners hear that other people die, then arise compassion, and then pray, may they have some virtues. May they did preliminary practice. May they meditated before they die, or may they not suffer in the bardo, will not suffer in the bardo, or may they attain Buddhahood, or may they take rebirth in the Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, and so forth. These are wonderful. But these thinkings are wonderful, but I'm not sure you will become great practitioner only through this way. But when you hear the other people's death, and then you turn your mind on you. First, it a little fear and scared yourself. Oh, sooner or later, I will be same like them. And later, it's little uncomfortable first time. But then you think, okay, then don't keep only that fear, but okay, sooner or later we all become like other people. We all, sooner or later, we all will die. But then, now we practice. And then you search, where is opportunity? Where are the opportunities? Who teach Dharma? Who lead the retreat? Where is the opportunity to meditate and participate in prayer and so forth? Then you do it. And then you should trust, as this morning, as Gamapa said, you need faith. Faith is essential, means you should trust. Practices will protect you, help you. And you trust on them, then definitely they help you. Don't keep only fears. But first it's a little uncomfortable to think about that, but step by step will become familiar. And then whenever you hear other people die and something, then you immediately start to practice. Like some fires come on your head, suddenly you try to remove it. It's same like that. So then you will become great practitioner. So the main reason is that this part of teaching is for you become great practitioner. But this is not only method. It does not scare us, but it tells true. It tells truly in the relative truth. Yeah? Appealing to yourself the deaths of other people you have witnessed dying is done as follows. Think of those closely related to you who were strong at first, of healthy complexion, completion, I think, complexion, feeling happy, and never giving a moment's thought to death. Yet, who were then stricken by fatal illness, their bodily strength went. They could not even sit up. Their complexion lost its luster, becoming pallid and dry, and they suffered distress. There was no way to cure the pain or lessen the emotional burden. Medicines and examinations were of no more help, and even religious ceremonies and special prayers could not make them better. They knew that they were going to die and that nothing could be done to prevent it. Surrounded by their remaining friends, they ate their last meal and spoke their last words. Evoking these images, think, I too am of the same nature. I will also be subject to these. I too have these characteristics and have not transcended this particular phenomena. Then, from the moment the breath stopped, that person's body was considered unfit to stay even a day in the very place that had been the beloved home from which the person could not bear to part. Once the corpse was laid on a bier, swathed, and bound, it was lifted up and carried out of the house. At that moment, some embraced it and clung to it. Some wept and wailed. Some fainted and were overcome with grief. Yet others remarked, this dead body is simply the likes of earth and rock. And you are small minded to carry one as you do. Contemplating suchness as a corpse, making its one way journey over the threshold. Think I too am of the same nature. Then contemplating the corpse once it has been left in the charnel ground where it is ripped apart by jackals and dogs, decomposed by insects. And where there are the disintegrated remains of skeletons, think I too will be like this. The way to apply to yourself the instance of other people's deaths that you have heard about is as follows. Whenever people say such and such a person died, or there is a corpse in such and such a place, think as above, I too am like that. The way to apply to yourself the instance of other people's deaths that you recollect is as follows. Think about all the people, some elderly, some young, some lifelong friends, who have died in your area, town, or in your own house. Bearing their deaths in mind, think as above. I too am like this. And reflect on how, before too long, you will also go that way. In the Sutara it says, since no one knows which will come first, tomorrow or the next life, it makes sense to strive for what has meaning in the next life and not put a lot of effort into what is just for tomorrow. If you memorize this sutara, I think it's helpful to improve the realization of impermanent. If you are a great practitioner, you really need the realization of impermanence. Because great practitioners has also obstacles. For example, we become great practitioners, and then many students. We have many students, and we become pretty popular. And then will start to arise outwardly concerns. But we have a great realization of impermanence. We will not. There's no chance to arise outwardly concerns. Same like students. If one has this realization of impermanence, there were no more competitions. And then also not showing too much. One do something, and I did that, this, those. It's well not related that. Which means not so much fixated. Which means we can dedicate purely, clearly. But sometimes you can share your practices for your friends. The reason is they will rejoice to you, and then your merits will increase, which means your practice make benefit to others' mind. However, always we should know ourselves' mind. Then in the third point discuss the benefits of meditating on impermanence. By understanding that all composed things are impermanent, strong craving for this life will be countered. Further, the seed of trust will be planted. Diligence will be reinforced. And this will be an important factor in realizing sameness, since it quickly frees the mind from attraction and rejection. Mm. Yeah, we are attached in this life. Why? There are many reasons, but these reasons are very not strong reason, not clear reasons. But there's one reason. This is we don't try to practice on impermanence. So we have a strong attachment in this life. I do not mean attachment between male and female. We have attachment with many things. So the realization of impermanence helps us. We have less attachment with this body. Of course, other material things. When we have less attachment this body, then we easily can utilize this body for practicing Dharma. So this is number one. Second, then as it says, faith. I just say we need faith. It's quite hard. I just say you need faith, okay? And he said we need faith, so I'm going to arise faith. It's a very few people maybe do it, but it's just one or two people possible. But as this teaching says, our body is impermanent. Impermanent. And then, but our mind travels to this life to Pardo to higher realms or lower realms or Pure Land or so forth. And then everything's are in our hand. So then we have to practice Dharma, and then we have to trust in karma, and we have to trust our Buddha nature, and we have to trust our guru, and then you will do it, yeah. And then your faith will start to arise. So that's where talking impermanence is not negative things. And then diligence. This morning I shared a few sentences. I say something about diligence. If I say you should diligence, you should make effort. It's also quite hard. Just say it. It's quite hard. That we understand. When we were young, around 9 years old, or 12 years old, probably, our parents says, learn something, do something, and we did not listen carefully. But now we kind of voluntarily, yeah, we do it. The same person has two different these behaviors. The reason is we understand. Even though we make effort how to save money and so forth, that also we understand that they also help us in this life. We work hard, they also benefit us. We know that's why now our parents do not say you should work hard or you should learn Dharma and so forth. We spontaneously learn and practice. Even we try to, we ask other people to practice and so forth. So, to understand impermanence, then understand the impermanence, then it help us to keep diligence. And then attachment, aversion. Attachment and aversion. The subject of attachment and aversion. The attachment and aversion is also occur without realization of impermanence. But if we have the realization of impermanence, then we have less attachment. And if we have attachment, but it is not fixation. And if we lost something, we were not so much suffering. So there are many benefits there. In this, and also enemies. We aversion towards enemies. Enemies themselves are impermanent. Impermanent, yeah. Themselves will change, will die, or will lost, or so forth. So if we understand that, otherwise we really dislike our enemies, and we wish they lost something. They got some obstacles. If not, then we are suffering. So that's where this is just extra suffering. And so everything's are very much related on the impermanence, the realization of impermanence. And also through the realization of impermanence, we can cultivate great merit. All Dharma activities are related merit. So if we understand this life is impermanent, even we understand that our wealth is impermanent, then we start to cultivate merit through those wealth, this wealth. How to start to cultivate is cultivating the offering and donation and generosity. And then the wealth is helpful. Not only this life, it helps next life. So right now, for example, in this world, there are many countries all the countries, they make effort to gain good wealth. But some countries have good wealth because in previous lives they accumulated great merit through generosity and so forth. So that's why they have good wealth. And right now also they spend their wealth for benefit others. So they cultivate great merit through this wealth. So then this wealth will be strong. Strong means they have good wealth always. And is then if individual, even in our one family has 5 siblings, some have good wealth, some has not much. These are also related in the related merit. Among the wealth, best wealth is merit. Merit can make wealth. Merit make wealth. That wealth can make merit. So if we have realization of impermanence, then we can offer, we can give, we can utilize it for welfare other beings. So only for this life, the realization of impermanence greatly benefit and help. And then, however, externally and internally, both ways, realization of impermanence greatly help. If you don't have more experience about the next life, and you did not hear before too much, you did not hear more about next life and pardos, it's okay. You try to understand impermanent for this life, for the benefit of this life. Perhaps you think the realization of impermanence, applying, try to understand impermanence, and thinking about this life are opposites. Maybe it looks like that, but not. Or if you should be patient with, if you are going to stay with a friend or family for longer, then realization of impermanence helps you. Realization of impermanence helps you. How to help is, of course, your partners, friends, or families or relatives, they are ordinary beings. It's a very, very possible sometimes make some mistakes. Yeah, intentionally or unintentionally. it's first you see these faults or mistakes. It's really hard to be patient with that, about that. But then you have realization of impermanence. You understand, it's impermanent. Sooner or later, will fix it. Can fix it. It will change. Or someone for example, use a harsh word, and if you directly focus on the harsh word, this is a harsh word. This person said that, and then that harms my mind. So then this person is something like not good or so forth. But if you have a realization of impermanent, then this sound is like an echo, just appear, just occurs, but then disappear. If you will not fixate, right? Generally, we often say that if you will not fixate on that, but realization of impermanent helps you to not fixate it. See, sometimes we say, these harsh words are like an echo. It temporarily occurs, but they will, moment to moment, they will gone. This we often say that. So then next what we say is, don't fixate, don't fixate. This is one way of teaching. But then don't fixate. We have to add another idea. Some understand. If I say don't fixate, then he says don't fixate, so I will not fixate on it. Some understand and do practice on it, practice this, so that's very good. But okay, he says the sounds are like an echo, but then he says don't fixate it, but it's I fixated on it. I cannot practice it. Sometimes some maybe have like that problems, and then you meditate on impermanence. So you don't follow, don't fixate, you don't focus that saying don't fixate on it. You meditate on impermanent, then you will not fixate on it. So it helps us, and then this concludes the 4th chapter concerning the impermanence of composed phenomena of this ornament of precious liberation, a wish-fulfilling gem of sublime Dharma. Okay. Now we are the 5th, chapter 5, I think. The suffering of samsara. Among 4 thoughts, precious human life, impermanence, and then samsara, suffering of samsara, yeah? So, one might feel, what does it matter if there is impermanence and death, since I will be reborn anyway? In that next life, I could experience the very finished, that being human or divine has to offer, that is fine by me. To think thus is to be attached to the pleasures of the cyclic existence, samsara. As the remedy for this, I shall explain how to become familiar with the defects of samsara. The synopsis is, the defects of samsara are covered by 3 topics: the suffering of conditioned existence, the suffering of change, and overt suffering. These three sufferings can be explained through metaphors. The suffering of conditioned existence is like uncooked rice. The suffering of change is like cooked rice mixed with poison. And overt suffering is like a stomach pains due to eating the poisoned rice. The three sufferings can also be explained in terms of their characters. Character. The suffering of conditioned existence has a neutral feeling. The suffering of change has a feeling of pleasure about it, and overt suffering actually feels like suffering. The three sufferings can also be explained in terms of their essential characteristics as follows. The first suffering of conditioned existence. We suffer merely through having taken on a human life composed of the aggregates, to which suffering is inherent. Ordinary people do not feel this suffering of conditioned existence and can be compared to people stricken by raging fevers who are insensitive to travel physical ills like in itching ear, steams interiors, and the other three types of emancipated beings. That is one's returners, non-returners, and arhats. Do you know returns and returners? This means the practitioners, they have it's dependent with the Mahayana tradition and others, but some just read before the arhat, they are uh, for that life, that life for sure to become enlightened. Many arhatis, but returners and returners means some once one time come back for samsara and then again purifies the remainder of these obscurations and so forth, and then they will become enlightened. Non-returner means then continuously practice and then they will become enlightened. All of our heart, returner, non-returner, these are actually they are the realizations related their realizations. Yeah, can perceive the suffering of conditioned existence. They can become compared to someone virtually cured of the fever and hence now quite aware of minor, how to say, aches and pains. A small hair put on the palm of the hand causes neither discomfort nor pain. But that same hair in the eye will cause great irritation and unpleasantness. Similarly, ordinary people are insensitive to the suffering of conditioned existence, whereas realized beings are greatly distressed by it. Whereas realized beings are greatly distressed by it, as it says in the commentary on the treasure of higher knowledge. When a single hair in our palm enters into our eyes, it engenders discomfort and pain. The childish, aching to the palm, do not recognize the suffering of conditioned existence. The noble ones aching to the eyes perceives conditioned existence as suffering. Okay. It's actually the suffering. Suffering has three classifications. So the ordinary beings cannot experience very subtle suffering. Generally, it says that, but it does not mean this subtle suffering does not suffer them. It does not mean the subtle suffering suffers to us, but right now we have a gross suffering. So that this gross suffering suffers are loud. So then we cannot figure out these small sufferings. But these areas, they arhatis and bodhisattva, great bodhisattvas, they understand this very subtle suffering. Then they how to say start to this subtle suffering because they do not have gross suffering. Gross suffering, why don't they have gross suffering? Because they gave up the cause of gross sufferings. The attachment and the aversion, these are gross, very gross, how to say, thoughts. Yeah, gross thoughts. So then the gross sufferings are occur from them. So they already purified this gross thoughts. So then they do not have cause of gross suffering. But we did not purify them, so we are suffering through gross sufferings. We are suffering through gross sufferings. Second, the suffering of change. Okay. Suffering of conditioned existence. That's okay. Then second, the suffering of change is so called because all the pleasures of samsara, whatever they may be, will eventually change into suffering, as it says in the White Lotus of Compassion Sutara. Okay, the driving realms are a cause for suffering to arise. The human realms are also cause for suffering. Let me drink nectar. Otherwise, it's better to drink nectar, more nectars. Otherwise, in my brain has no D and ah and so forth. So when I speak English, I always missing D and ah and so. But I have some other extra vocabularies. They often coming. That's where you. Then sometimes my speak becomes how to say distractions to your meditation. My spoken, yeah. My speech disturbed your meditation. Oh, I got another idea. I asked to my teacher to write many D's and and something, and then pour in the tea, and then I would drink. Probably. Oh, today's weather is hot. Is it hot? Nice weather, yeah. Oh. I'm very lethargic. I don't know. lethargic, yeah. Okay, now I make effort. Hence, even those who attain the human status of a universal monarchy, Sanskrit is maybe Sanskrit, Kigraverting, will in time change and find themselves in a state of suffering. It says in the letter to a friend, even a universal monarch will, in the course of time, become a servant. Okay. Become a servant. Oh, yes. It's true. This is it's really true if we Right now, it's bring about the kind of the uh, monarch monarch, or it's bring some higher word. I mean, it's like a kings or so forth. But we look in our society, really, it's happened. Before, some are very very poor and they become rich. Nowadays, they have many, yeah. And before, some are very very rich. Nowadays, they become poor. Rich people become poor, have more suffering, and poor people become rich, I think, more suffering, because they have strong attach on their wealth, and then they worry that someone steal it or lost it or so forth. So uh, uh, however, these are suffering of change. Furthermore, even someone who achieves the physical form and the experiences of Indra, Lord of the gods, will eventually fall from that state, first dying, then transmigrating. It says, even having become Indra, worthy of offerings, you fall back to earth through the power of karma. Besides these, the likes of the king of the gods, Brahma, who has transcended sensual desire and attained the felicity of evenly resting in meditative concentration, will also eventually fall. It says, from the pleasures of being Brahma, free of desires, you will have to put up with unceasing suffering of being full in the hell of relentless agony. Yeah? The third point is that of suffering as overt suffering. This compresses the significant and the quiet above obvious sufferings experienced above and beyond that of having a life composed of aggregates to which suffering is inherent. They are to be known through two categories: those of the lower states of existence and those of the higher state. So these five aggregates are, as Marpa Lotsa was told to Malarepa, if we do not recognize the essence of these five aggregates, then these five aggregates are the cause of suffering. This is very true. Right now we have lots of things. We need a lot of things for this body, these five aggregates. We have something, it does not enough. It is uncomfortable. If we do not have something for them, it is also uncomfortable and it is suffering. But if we recognize these five aggregates are the five family Buddhas, at that time, then these five aggregates are helpful. So these five aggregates are helpful or not, it's related over mind. It's related over mind means how we understand, how we look on these these five aggregates. If we look, these five aggregates are as ordinary body, then these five aggregates are cause of suffering, especially it is a very sensitive. Even little heat cannot bear, yeah, and a little cold cannot bear. So, see, this body need very gentle clothes. Gentle clothes, only gentle does not enough. It needs exactly size. It has some size exactly for food have socks, feet have socks, and so forth. It does not enough. We need different colors, We have different colors. It does not enough new. If we have new, still does not enough. We need another new. So something like that. This when we do not recognize that our five aggregates are the five family Buddhas, then these five aggregates are the cause of suffering, and we are work for a long time to make happy, to make happy or to make for making some nice, but then we cannot do sometimes. Sometimes we can do in either way. Then we are cultivate many attachment and aversion through these five aggregates, and we cultivate many attachment and aversion through these five aggregates, and then these five aggregates are like a clothes, and then this our consciousness is like a body. So that's where then this consciousness, when we will die, consciousness and this body will separate, but still this consciousness attached to these five aggregates. So still this consciousness will not remain nakedly. It goes nakedly, but still try to wear some kind of another clothes, for example. And then it is search through attachment and aversion, power of attachment and aversion, and then it take rebirth in the lower realms, and then they found some animal's body, and then these animals have no freedom, and then they have more suffering. First, they were like a human body. Over consciousness. First, over consciousness were Indra God's body, and at that time, do not try to cultivate virtues. Do not try to cultivate merit. Only utilize that merit, and at the same time, cultivate some non-virtues, and then rebirth in the human realms. And then it wears like a human body. It wears human's body. At that also, do not try to understand that five aggregates are the five family Buddhas, and then it cultivate many negative karmas for the sake of these five aggregates, and then eventually these five aggregates and then human consciousness separate. After separated, it travel to in the lower realms, and then it goes down step by step. So that through this way, then it's a very suffering. Actually, wherever provide over feeling, there is providing by suffering. If we have some like a pure perception, as we understand that 5 aggregates are the 5 family Buddhas, then wherever provide our feelings, there is providing Yidam's form. So then, for example, right now, we were means our consciousness is in our body, in our bodies. And then we don't try to then we more visualize Yidam deities and practice well, and then this consciousness can see these 5 aggregates are the Yidam's form. It can see, and then eventually this body and that consciousness separate. After separated, then this consciousness aware or rent. Rent is very rent Yidam's form. At that time, no need particularly visualize it, that one's form are the Yidam deities. It is Yidam deity's form. So, so that's why we everything is related our mind, and the mind turns into positive or negative. This is in our hand. If we will turn our mind in positive, then we should practice. Perhaps you think suddenly we visualize Yidam deity, that our 5 aggregates are the Yidam's form, is okay. We do not need to talk more about suffering and this part. This is right, but it is very much related practitioners. Some practitioners suddenly cannot see the Yidam's form, then first have to see the have to training through this way, and then after training after training very well, then start to focus on Yidam's form, and then easily can get benefit. Okay, so then today we will stop here, and we will dedicate our merits. And nowadays, many Dharma masters teaching through different directions, and all of these teachings bring the benefit of these teachings bring here. And many practitioners listening Dharma, all of this merit and benefit bring here, and then 3 times and 10 directions Buddhas, all the merits bring here, and then arise compassion, and then we dedicate it for welfare of all mothers and human beings. This is the best offering to Buddhas and so forth, and this is how we improve our merit. Okay. Chancho sencho renpo che ma ji ba na ma ji jur je ba nyam ba me ba ya gong ne gong de be ba jo.
May bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time, and may all Yidams protect you all. Thank you. Okay.